Hi guys, so for today's birthday card we are going to be using the following materials. I have my Canson watercolor paper, or you can feel free to use any watercolor paper that you have. I've cut the sheet down 5.5 by 4.25 I believe, and those are the size of my envelope, so these are sized to fit in that envelope. I have my shell ready. I am using my brushes. I forgot this one. I'm using my Filbert. So I have a Filbert Princeton number 6 and then a Q series wave water media number 4. I'm going to try and find this brush for you guys, or the equivalent of this brush from another company and list it below. And then I also have my silver black velvet. For my colors, I am using my not Princeton. For my colors, I am using St. Petersburg White Nights, the turquoise, and also the Russian blue. So this is going to be a dominantly blue card that we're doing. All right, and so we are ready to begin. I'm going to start off by mixing some colors very quickly over here. So I'm just going to move that up and get some of the turquoise first using the number 4. And here we go. Just a little bit on there. Then I'm going to get some of the Russian blue and mix that on here. Now I don't really mind if the colors are interchanging or intermixing with one another. I'm just going to keep the cakes handy here, so if I want to go back in and get some more color, I can do that. And we are going to begin. So first thing I want to do is I'm thinking of placement. So for placement, I'm definitely going to have a nice floral off to the side over here on this end. And I'm going to have a couple of other florals floating around. But I want to leave some space in the center or somewhere along here so I can have some text happening. So I'm going to get some of the color that I have, the Russian blue, and I'm just going to create a floral, a loose floral. So let's think about this as a open rose or some sort of camellia or something like that, but in a very loose manner, right? So I'm going to have, using the number 4 big brush, I'm going to quickly add in a couple of strokes just like this. And what I'm going to do is, the aim of this is to create 3 petals that go around in a circular fashion. I took a little bit of the other color now, and I'm adding another stroke, leaving a lot of white space in the center. I'm going to go fluctuate and get the other color back again. And this time I'm going to close it up with the 3rd. And leave it kind of very open-ended this way. All right, so now that I have this, I'm going to take my number 4. And I will just get, I'm not going to mention, like, in any of the 2 colors that you're using are fine, that you can just take the color directly from the palette and just go in the center and add a darker hue so that it kind of gives you that nice contrast. And this is still kind of slightly damp, so you can get a couple of strokes in there to kind of blend in nicely with what you have. Give it a little bit of detail, that sort of thing. Have it dry up nicely so you can get these nice rich colors and blues happening in there. I'm going to add a couple of linear lines or dots around in the center here, and they're not necessarily connected with anything, like you can see the white space, I mean. And I'm going to leave it as is. So we've got the inner bit. Now I want to do the outer bit for this. So I'm gonna put I put my brush aside. I'm gonna take my number 4 again, and this time I'm gonna go back and get what I have pre-mixed, making sure I don't have too much water on here. I'm gonna go back in here and create some additional petals, but in a much more looser fashion. And I'm leaving white space as well, as you can see. And dipping the tip in water, I'm gonna get a little bit of that other color. And see, that's too much water, so just make sure your paper towel is handy and just move the color or the water around so it isn't like too much in one spot. And then you can always just take your paper towel and just wipe off any excess if you wish, because these brushes hold a lot of water that way. So I'm adding a couple of strokes here. I'm gonna add some very loose ones happening here. Then I'm gonna get some water on here without getting any more color, and I'm just softening the rest of it. And that's that, right? So we've got this like nice big flower happening in that corner. Now we can get our color back. This time we can get either the other blue, which was the Russian blue, and just add a couple of strokes here and there to kind of get some nice shadowy effects, perhaps. Dipping the tip. Let me bring my water back in here so you can see that. Getting some darker hues happening here in this corner, so it just doesn't look like one solid color. And these might not happen at this point, but we'll see, because this is Canson, so it kind of what's the word, dries up fairly quickly. But we're gonna add some detail anyways, so it doesn't have to be something that blends in, but you could just be doing your dry, wet on dry effect happening. And there we go. So we have this nice flower with a lot of detail. I'm gonna go back in the center, getting a mixture of both the colors with my number 4, and I'm just adding a darker center to what we have. And then just adding a little bit of that color onto these highlights that we've recently added. Just dabbing a little bit here and there. And then just giving a couple of strokes to like give more detail to the inner bit of this flower. And then we're gonna leave it because I love how this looks. So this is perfect. So now that we have this, we're gonna get the darkest color of the two, which is the turquoise, I believe. Feel free to get the other color if that's what you wish. And I'm gonna get the color directly from here and use it now. So what I'm going to do is just create a couple of leaves. So feel free to draw or paint these leaves in the direction that you want them. I'm going to have one happening up here. And you see how dark it is? I'm dipping the tip in water to get the second half slightly lighter, leaving a lot of white space still, but leaving it nice and loose and flowy at the same time. My strokes, I mean. Then you can continue to create a couple happening just at the top, just like this. One off to the side on a smaller scale so it doesn't look too big or massive. Getting some more. And then I'm going to get one happening just right over here. Getting some of the other color that we have. Because why not? Let's get a little bit of that color happening too. And now this is almost like evolving, like it's shaping or framing this area, right? And that's okay by me. I love the combination of these blues. It's super pretty. And I'm just kind of trying to taper off at the top there. So I kind of like how this is happening. So I know we said we'll have a couple of florals all around, but it's turning out to be like a main floral here, and then maybe we'll have one more at the top. So your classic framing of it. This is what happens, guys, when you paint and things kind of evolve. You should be ready to have like go with another plan. So we're going to use the number 6 for our next floral. Okay, so using the number 6, I'm going to flip this over so we can have a flower or a floral happening in this direction here. And again, we're going to use the same color that we've sort of pre-mixed. So taking in some of this pre-mixed color, right now everything is kind of mixed up, and that's okay. I'm just going to use whatever is here to kind of create a very loose looking floral. And again, we'll use the same technique that we kind of have there, but this floral is going to be facing downward. So just adding a couple of these loose strokes this way. I'm creating almost like that cup portion for our floral. I don't really need any water from there. I should just get the water directly from here because this is quite watery as is. So I'm creating my first petal, and then I'm going to leave some white space, create another one, pushing all the color downward and try to leave it loose. Oops, this is color on my sheet here. I'm going to get some of this other color. I'm going to kind of press it down this way, and this will be the petal that's like folding outward. All right, and then finally we are doing, actually before we even do, we should just go right in, get some of the darker turquoise I have, and I'm just going to add a couple of strokes here before things dry up, because depends on the kind of paper you have. Like I'm using the Canson, so obviously it's going to dry off a lot quicker, and so I want to get this blend before we move on to the next floral. So I'm just adding a couple of highlights for this before we do the top portion of it. And just very, very loose. All right, so now we're going to do this back portion of the floral. If you've done any of my peony or big bloom floral tutorials, like this technique is quite, I've done this many times. So I'm just going to do a couple of strokes like this, almost kind of like outlining these petals that we have, and these will be your background petals. Just like that. All right, so just adding a couple of very loose strokes, trying to keep it not too detailed. And that's it. That's all we're going to do over there. So then the next thing after that, we're going to take the number 4 again, get some of the darker, what do I have here? Russian blue. And I am just going to add a couple of details, like dots almost, like right here in the center. And then I'm going to kind of almost close it up by creating another very thin, like oval shape almost to this. And I'm just adding a couple of strokes in other areas, or a couple of dabs rather, in other areas here. And that's good. This way the color is reflective, not just in the center, but you have hints of it, you know, in other areas. And it ties up the whole floral. That's the whole idea of using the two. That's why I'm not stressing too much about which color I'm using, even if you're using a combination of the two, as long as there is a stark difference, and you can see that very clearly between this or these, right? Like this one's the turquoise and that one's the Russian blue, or I'm mixing them up, I think, at this point. But yes, I have the contrast and I kind of really like the contrast that's happening. So again, we're going to do our leaves, just do a couple. Let's take some of the turquoise first. So since we have some of that happening here, let's do some here. So if you are struggling with leaves, I suggest you try out my beginner leaf video, which is quite fun, but gives you good practice as well. So leaving a lot of white space in between the leaves to kind of give it that nice loose effect. And that's perfect. And then we're going to get some of the liquid from there and just try and create some lighter looking leaves, probably over here. So this has taken down the intensity of the color by me adding water. Now I'll get some of the Russian blue on my, and I'm just going to add a line right there, a stem to give this direction, and then I'm adding my leaf. So just like that, and you can see the beautiful blend that it gives you. You've got like that super pretty effect. So you can kind of add a couple more if you want. It doesn't have to like attach to the leaf. But again, keep in mind, we want to try and keep some space for the words like happy birthday or something. So we've got our main things down and ready to go. You can add some super light leaves like this, like I'm just doing right here. And this might add some nice detail, loose detail, and soften up the look. And it doesn't have to be too much, and we can just do either the name or a happy birthday right down the center here. So I'm just going to add some light leaves before we move on to that detail. So you see how light it is, and it's a nice contrast against the other leaves. It's perfect. You can go lighter too if you wish. Just get some water on your brush and have at it. So I'll just do one here. Yeah, and my beginner leaf video is very similar to what I'm doing over here. So if you like this kind of blending and light and dark, you should definitely check it out. All right, so there. This is what we have, and now we are going to tackle the center. All right, so we have our card done, and this is what it looks like. And I'm really digging the blues with the silver, and we have like this nice envelope to go with it. And so literally, it is ready to go. Well, obviously after you write your message in the back. But look how nice that looks, guys. Just a little bit of effort, and you can create something quite authentic and real. So hope you guys like this.